Good evening. Welcome to Today interview time. Let me introduce Mr. Lawrence Michael. He is a chairman of Rack Corp in Australia. Today's world is becoming more and more dependent on cyberspace and data. We will talk about the importance of cybersecurity today. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Thank you for receiving our invitation.
Thanks for having me.
So let's start talking about Rack Corp and its mission.
Sure. Rack Corp's an Australian company. We started the company in 2003 with the idea to provide better IT services than that were currently available. From there, we've expanded from Sydney to some other cities and countries, and our mission for the last 5 years has been to expand throughout Asia, including Mongolia.
So how many countries at the moment are
We're
you covering?
we're in 12 countries now,
Oh,
and expanding.
Since 2003.
2003.
That's a big success.
So far, so good.
So now I want to ask about the cloud. I know we have some imagination that somewhere in the sky or maybe on the ground there's a place that we are sending our information and data, we are keeping our data. But what really happens from the technical side? What's cloud?
Sure. Cloud is basically a collection of data centers, all interconnected, providing data from many locations to many locations. So an easy way to understand it is to think of the cloud as something above us, because we're all connecting, we can all see it, we're all connecting to it. But essentially it's specialist purpose-built buildings where your data is stored in infrastructure that's connected to multiple networks, and people over the internet can connect and receive their information.
So certain countries have the clouds. Let's say in the United States there's one cloud. Is it or several spaces that interconnected?
I guess there are millions of clouds out there, and they're all, I guess the term cloud would refer to as a cloud and multiple clouds all sharing information between each other.
So it doesn't have to do with anything in the sky?
No.
No satellite even?
Satellites are part of the network, so in certain places, rather than connecting underground or through fiber or through cables, they'll be connecting through satellites.
So in Mongolia, what's the case when the data storage is concerned, based on your experience in Mongolia?
From our research over the past 12 months and through talking with various companies in Mongolia, we've identified that most companies that we've spoken to don't know where their data is. And that's worrying. The companies that do know where their data is, the majority of them have their data outside the country, which is also worrying.
Why is it worrying?
When you think about a person's data or a company's data or a government's data, the first thing is security. How secure is that data? Who has access to that information? If that information is accessible by the wrong people, you are vulnerable to having those people have your information. It can be used in any way. So I guess the main reason of our research to identify where the data is stored is to promote having data stored locally within the country rather than outside of the country.
So where do Mongolians are storing their data mostly, based on your study?
Well, there are two types of ways that Mongolian companies and different entities in Mongolia are storing their data. The first is on site in their own buildings, and the second is in the cloud, which means through a company providing cloud services. And the companies providing cloud services that we're aware of in Mongolia are companies that are external to Mongolia.
External to Mongolia?
Yes.
What countries?
Various countries, the United States, China, different other countries in the region here where data is going to be stored in those locations rather than in Mongolia.
Rather than in Mongolia.
Correct.
So most of our companies and entities, Mongolian companies and entities, don't know where the real location of the data is.
From our
we assume
research,
that?
yes.
Wow. What kind of cyber attacks are there? Basically.
Generally speaking, cyber attacks, there are many different types of cyber attacks, but essentially a cyber attack is one entity interfering or obstructing with another entity, or one entity gaining unauthorized access to another entity.
So when the technicality is concerned, what types of cyber attacks are there? Let's say, well, when I think about cyber attack, going into someone's profile and stealing the information and use it in a wrong way, use it in an illegal way, is that it?
That's one type of attack.
What are the other types?
So that way that you've just explained means obtaining unauthorized access to someone's information. The other attack is preventing that entity or that company or that person from promoting services through their network.
So can you tell our audience what we have to know and what we have to know when we decide to store our data in cloud?
2 main points.
2 main points, okay.
First point is security. Who has access to that information? The second is safety. Can I guarantee that that information is only, they're both in one in the same. The main point is safety and security.
So in last 15 years from the Rack Corp, have you been under cyber attack? And what was the most powerful and bad attack, cyber bad attack?
Like most companies, we're all susceptible to attacks. So it's inevitable that it's going to happen to all of us. That being said, it's very important to have a strategy and procedure in place to ensure that you can mitigate the problem of the attack. That includes developing systems that can slow or prevent the attack from hitting the network. And with our company over the last 7 to 8 years, we've started developing strategies to protect networks from DDoS attacks.
If not secret, can you tell us about the real process of keeping secure those strategies? Like,
Sure.
what happens in the cyber world?
Attacks originate from many different locations, and it's very difficult to pinpoint one location and block that location because it happens from all over the world. Because of our network and the way we've developed and grown over the years, we've established network and presence and infrastructure in many different locations around the world. So we're in a great position to be able to block lots of different types of traffic from so many different points at somewhere close to the sources, so that the natural traffic and the systems that need protecting are protected in those locations.
Protect by what? Like
Protected from...
Is it a firewall or is it?
At a technical level...
Yeah, I want to know about the technical level.
At a technical level, there are many hardware and software, hardware appliances and software systems that work together to identify different types of attacks and to block.
Let's say in Australia there's a presidential election or something big is happening. And how do you guys plan for that event as the cyber security concerned?
For state electoral commissions, for example, we provide our partners with infrastructure and resources to provide a safe, secure and available system for those processes to occur. Part of that is offering not only the infrastructure, but the technology that sits around it to ensure that data is protected from cyber attacks, including DDoS, which is what we explained earlier, preventing the system from running, and also for protection from unauthorized access, including different types of intrusion and collection and stealing of data, which is very important. So part of our process to ensure that is using various security methods, network intrusion, detection and protection, file integrity management.
File integrity management.
To ensure that the data on the systems is not compromised or changed. Locking out unauthorized access from known sources, identifying and analyzing patterns of activity during the process to ensure that no one that's not supposed to be accessing the network is. So all of those things together work to provide a solid, secure environment so that processes like elections can happen smoothly.
What do we have to know when we use cloud?
The main points when utilizing a cloud provider or uploading your data to a cloud service are knowing where that data is stored. That's probably the single most important piece of information. The reason being, if your data is stored outside the local jurisdiction, then you're susceptible to a foreign entity's rules and regulations. So knowing where your data is and essentially knowing that your data is local is very important.
What's the policy and law environment on the cyber attacks and cyberspace in Australia that Mongolia can learn from?
I guess the policies regarding storage of data in a data center are dependent on the country and the government of that country. Certain countries will require that full access to all data is available anywhere in the world by a company that's from that particular country.
Oh, wow. How about Australia?
Australia, I guess Australia, including most countries, will have a similar policy, but it's a lot more stringent, meaning that if, as we talked about, cybersecurity and access of data and protection of data, if there's a presumption that there's any illegal activity happening on a network and a government requires access to that data, and there are several stages of requesting that information.
Even if you are government? You have several stages.
Even if you're a government. As a private entity, you are required by law to provide that information upon subpoena if there's a presumption that based on the evidence collected so far, there is illegal activity happening on that network.
So you've done a big research on our cyberspace, Mongolian cyberspace, last 1 year.
Yes.
What are the solutions and possible development steps from your perspective that we could implement, we could do in Mongolia?
From my understanding, the IT infrastructure side of Mongolia is very young and it's developing. So it's very promising that they're at the stage where there's a lot of potential. Unfortunately, most companies that we've talked to are investing in other companies outside the country rather than within companies inside Mongolia, from what we've seen. I guess one of my pieces of advice would be for IT companies within Mongolia, with government sectors inside Mongolia, including the digital and IT sector, to look at ways and strategies to implement for IT to develop more within the country rather than outsourcing the requirements for Mongolian companies outside of the country.
So basically you're saying we should build up our own infrastructure for data storage, is that it?
Definitely, definitely.
Well, I'm a social, I have social media accounts, you know, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, that kind of stuff. Do you use them?
I don't.
Why?
I know if I did, I wouldn't have time to do anything else. That's just me. But I'm so busy with day-to-day work that I've never set them up.
Okay. But from the security point, what would you advise to our audience when we are using the social media accounts?
A lot of
different
people,
kinds.
Sure. A lot of people are using social media these days, and it's a great thing. Connects many people, past, present, and future relationships. Businesses are using Facebook and social media accounts more so now to expand their presence. I guess at a personal level, to ensure better safety and security measures, limit your information that you provide on the internet through your social media accounts. Only connect to people who you know. Try not to expand your profiles to have so many different people, because everybody that's on your network knows about you. They follow your movements, what your likes, dislikes. So it's better to focus on the people that you know and share and create that social media experience with.
So keep it limited, guys, right?
That was the intention of it anyway. Yes. Well, not to limit, but to ensure that you're limiting the amount of personal information you're providing, because that's public. So that's what's important.
Let's go back to the Rack Corp. What's the real mission of Rack Corp entering in Mongolian market, cyber market?
Okay. Over the past 5 years, our strategy has been to focus on the Asian region. So we've gone through Singapore, Hong Kong, the Philippines, Japan, and now Mongolia. So 2018, we want to dedicate a lot of time and resource into providing more information to the Mongolian market, working with IT companies within Mongolia to provide them with IT infrastructure and a platform that they can utilize to provide services to their clients. Now, with that said, the idea for us and the process of this is to build IT infrastructure within the country, within Mongolia, rather than having external to Mongolian countries external to Mongolia building up their infrastructure and Mongolian companies using those. So this is what we see as a great opportunity for IT in Mongolia to grow and develop. So over the next 12 months, we will implement infrastructure in multiple data centers through Mongolia and give access to that infrastructure to established and emerging IT companies in Mongolia so that they can focus on utilizing that infrastructure within Mongolia to provide services that stay local.
Stay local.
Yes.
Stay safe.
All the data stays within the country.
Do you need government support on this?
Definitely. I think government, from our research and from our talks, their services are running really well within the country, but hopefully we can share experiences and wisdom together where we can help develop strategies going forward.
Right. Well, thank you very much for a very interesting topic, and this is actually very new to, I must say this is actually very new to me.
Okay.
And I hope many other audiences, and thank you very much. I wish you good health and good luck.
Thank you very much.
And I wish for good, secure cyberspace within Mongolia in the close future.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That's all for today. Thank you for being with us. You're watching Today Interview Time. We'll see you next Tuesday with more news and updates. Have a good one. Bye-bye.